into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. So as we do every week, we'll just start with sort of the big picture takeaways now that you've had a day to digest the game.
Too many mistakes. Too many mistakes in all three phases. The return game for them got the ball out in good field position. Defensively, the end of the game in 2 minutes. Offensively, too many 3 and outs. We had 9 of them, and too many third downs that we could not convert.
I feel like sometimes momentum, I don't know, maybe it can be overrated, maybe it's underrated, but is there a chance that having the bye week when you had it ended up being a bad thing in terms of trying to carry the momentum from the game in Germany and even the last drive of the Rams game? Did it feel like that disrupted some of the things you guys were doing, particularly on the offensive side?
I don't think so. I think the break was good. We needed to get healthier. I thought we played hard. I didn't think we played smart.
And as you speak of getting healthier, that was unfortunately not how this game went for you guys. The bye week may have been good for that. But first of all, just some of the updates that you have at this point on the injury front.
Tristan has a high ankle sprain, so he'll be day-to-day and week-to-week, so we'll see how that goes. Winfield has a high ankle sprain. We'll see how he goes toward the end of the week. And Murphy Bunning and Mike Edwards have contusions, leg contusions, so we'll see how they feel. Starting
with the Tristan and Antoine ones, I imagine after Tom Brady, those might be the two guys you would least want to lose in terms of one on each side of the ball. Does that feel fair?
They've been pretty consistent and very successful for us, so that's tough to lose. You know, the good news is that the way Tristan went off, we thought it was worse than it was, so for him to just have ankle sprain, that's encouraging.
What would be the steps to try to replace the guys, those two guys in particular, and the way, I mean, you've already had to do that a little bit with Antoine so far this year, so what did you learn from that? And then Tristan is thankfully a guy you haven't had to do that with a ton over his time here, so what does replacing the two of them look like, and maybe some adjustments you would have to make on each side of the ball because of it?
Well, Mike Edwards would have to go to free safety, and Keanu would have to go to strong safety as far as trying to replace Winfield. Obviously, Bunning will be at the nickel, trying to replace Tristan. It's hard to do, but Wells has done a decent job in the past, so he'll probably step in, and Brandon Walton get some reps as well.
So looking at the way that the game ended in terms of, we'll talk about the end of regulation first. What was your thought process in the final defensive drive and the final offensive drive in terms of things like clock management and timeouts and just when to go for it, when not to, all of those things? How much factors into that based on what had happened in the game, your philosophies as coaches, and some of those decisions that you made?
Offensively, at the end, you know, we had about maybe 30 seconds as well. The first play, we threw a screen to Rachaad. He got tackled for 1 or 2 yards. The way we've been going, we had 3 and outs in the fourth quarter, and we had a whole field to go. So it was better not to call a timeout. I thought we'd get going. Tom snapped the ball. He got a throw in there to Julio. Fortunately, he fit it in the window. We called timeout. Ended up not working out. We go to overtime anyway. We didn't win. Defensively, you know, we got it to 4th down. We didn't want them to talk about it and have a timeout to talk about it. So we knew the play that was coming. The guy made a great catch. You got to take your hat off to him.
I'm sure there were a lot of times towards the end of regulation and in overtime where it felt like just one score, even a field goal, would put the game out of reach, get that, you know, 2-possession situation, and the offense just wasn't able to get those points. After that first drive, what seemed to stall out offensively, and were there common themes? Was it something different each time down the field? What did you see?
Third downs. You know, we couldn't convert third downs. We converted them on the first drive. After that, we had trouble converting them. Some of them were long, some of them were not as long, but got to be able to convert third downs and stay on the field and keep drives alive. It messes up the continuity of the offense. You don't get the chemistry. You don't get in sync. You don't get in game rhythm when you're coming off the field every 3 plays.
What did you see from Brady's game and what he was able to do? I know especially early in the game, he was just, the accuracy was incredible in terms of his completion rate. Several drives that had where he didn't have a single incompletion. What did you see from him overall?
In the first half, he was clicking. Everybody was clicking on offense. He was throwing the ball very well. In the second half, the pressure got to him a little bit. He had to get rid of the ball quicker than he wanted to. Still didn't turn the football over, but he competed. You know, he competed. We just got too many 3rd and longs. We got too many 3rd and longs, and we couldn't convert them.
And speaking of the pressure, what did you think of the offensive line's game, both in pass protection and the run game?
I think we started out well. I think as the game went on, I think they started getting to us a little bit. and we got to shore up some areas.
And I know that Mike Evans is a guy that he can make some crazy catches, but there are a lot of times that the defense is giving him a lot of attention. What did you see out there in terms of why Mike was not able to come up with more catches? It was a Chris Godwin day, and sometimes it's a Mike Evans day. So why was this not a Mike Evans day?
Oh, we just didn't connect. There's a lot of misconnections between Tom and Mike, a lot of misconnections when the line, the pressure got back there, and we got to get on the same page. Everybody's got to get on the same page for us to have that success.
So as a coach, even looking at the phrase getting on the same page, what is it that now you guys try to do to make that happen? What are the things that at this point in the season in particular, when we're not talking about having all of training camp or an off season to try to build some of that chemistry, what are some of the tangible things you can do week to week to try to make that happen?
Well, as coaches, we have to make sure that everybody understands what they're doing and it's not too much and too difficult, or it's too many checks or too many audibles, and make sure everybody's on the same page that way. And once we get that streamlined and make sure they understand it, then they have to execute and go out and do it. So it's a lot on both parts, the coaches and the players. It doesn't just fall on the players, it falls on the coaches as well.
And I know that we talked about Mike, it wasn't his biggest day, but he did reach a big milestone where he hit 10,000 career yards. And now he has 10,000 career yards and 75 receiving touchdowns. The list of people who have done that in their first 9 seasons: Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Larry Fitzgerald, Marvin Harrison, Calvin Johnson, and now Mike Evans. When you hear that list, right, see even that facial expression, that's a heck of a list to be on.
It's a Hall of Fame list.
I completely agree in terms of Mike eventually being headed that way. What does that say about him, those two stats of those receiving yards and those touchdowns to this point in his career and being on a list with those people?
It says a lot about his consistency, his competitiveness, his willingness to just go out every week and play regardless of the circumstances. It says a lot about the person in general, how tough he is and how hard he works. The results have paid off for him.
All right, well, we have more coming up here on the Todd Bowles Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. We were talking about Mike Evans, and I think getting to watch him and Chris Godwin alongside each other has just been such a treat for so many Bucs fans for so long. And it was one of those games where it is so nice to know at least one of them seems like they're going to have a big game. And it was the Godwin day. And 12 catches, 110 yards, a touchdown. How great is that for you to see coming off this injury that it feels like vintage Chris Godwin? That did it feel to you like he is fully back and this is the Godwin we come to know and love?
He looked like he was fully back. Certain games he was just getting through, but yesterday he flew around. He was coming in and out of breaks. He showed toughness, he showed quickness, he showed speed. He blocked, he caught the ball well. He did everything that he did last year. He's
another guy that now, he's 6th most touchdowns in franchise history from scrimmage and 4th most receiving touchdowns in team history. So he's always been a guy that can get a ton of catches and yards. I think, kind of that security blanket. But then also to be now 2 games in a row getting in the end zone. What has he done well in that area, and how big of a boost is that having him fully back to your red zone offense?
He competes, he's very physical on the inside. He can get defensive backs off of him. He can catch balls in tight places. He can make people miss. He can do a lot of things to get himself open, and that's a tough cover inside the slot. A statement I didn't know that we'd be saying, a Ko-Kieft touchdown. Tell me about this play. Tell me about Ko-Kieft going from blocking tight end extraordinaire to getting in the end zone. It's been in the making for quite some time. Ko actually has very good hands in practice. He's shown them. We're just trying to find places to get him the football, and it was easy for him. I was happy for him. It was one of the big bright spots of his life, obviously, because he blocks so much, but he has very good hands, and we trust him. That's a big deal. And another rookie I know that you're coming to trust more and more is Rachaad White. When you knew you weren't going to have Fournette, what did that do to the game plan, and how did you feel knowing that Rachaad would be the guy getting the majority of the snaps at this point in the season? We felt okay. We feel like we got a 1-2 punch with Lenny and Rachaad, obviously, and we like the things that Keyshawn was doing. So when he got a chance to start and play, I thought he showed well. I thought he caught the ball well. He found the holes when they were there, and he did a good job. He takes care of the football. He gets positive yards almost every time. I know that Julio, it was kind of fun to watch that 15 yards on that little reverse play, and then delivering a heck of a hit at the end of it. And he also had a 26-yard catch.
What has he been adding to the offense and the hopes for what that could look like moving forward now that it seems like he's, knock on wood, staying healthy more?
He adds so much mentally. He understands the game. He helps the receivers out as far as route running and what they're trying to do. But physically, he's rounding back into shape, and he's becoming a very viable receiver for us that we can go to when the other two guys are double teamed. And you're going to have to start double teaming Julio because he's getting healthier and healthier, and hopefully he'll help us a lot down the stretch.
Looking at some of the defensive side of things, I know that you guys knew they were going to want to run the ball, and you knew that Nick Chubb is an incredible back. So what went into the game plan trying to stop that? What didn't work? What did they do well versus what you guys struggled with a bit?
Well, a lot of the run came from the quarterback getting out on the 17-yard boot run where we missed the tackle, and then the reverse came. That went another 31 yards. So a lot of the runs came from that. Chubb was a great back. We knew he was a great back. We knew the linemen were going to pull. We were trying to make sure we had gang tackling and wrap them up. Obviously, he broke a few, but for the most part in the interior, they played tough. I thought we were a little soft out on the edges at times, and we let him out or we misfit some things. But, 28 carries for 116, that's not a great average, but we thought we held him down just enough to get some things done, but we let some other areas go.
And I know you guys were able to produce 4 sacks, which, you guys are one of the top teams in the league at producing that this year. What did you see about it, and the fact that so many different people were involved in it? What was working well and getting to a guy who, Brissett is not an easy guy to bring down, and so what worked well in that area?
Yeah, the pressure game worked well. I think we only got to him one time with a 4-down look, but having different looks and different guys, we got to get people in those positions though, and we like to spread it around a little bit. Keanu got in the act, I know that much. Obviously Nelson did as well. Nacho, so we had a bunch of guys doing some different things, but we got to give them more 3rd and long so we can take advantage of it.
Yeah, and Keanu Neal, big game for him. What have you seen about what he brings in terms of not even just the X's and O's, but some of his intangibles, the way he hits, some of the things that he has brought, being the kind of safety he is, the guy that has played linebacker in the past? What is the different dynamic he can bring out there?
His toughness, his toughness and his intelligence. He prepares every week. He takes copious notes. He does a whole bunch of things to get himself ready to play. So when his number's called, he can step right in and play. And I thought he did a good job yesterday.
All right, well, we have more coming up on the Todd Bowles Show, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. Tell me about the final drive at the end of overtime that resulted in the touchdown. What struggles happened along the way? What were some of the things that you feel like didn't go the way you guys had planned on that drive?
Well, the biggest thing is Carlton slipped, and he kept running and he threw the ball. Obviously, with the wet surface, you can't do that. You can't fall down. That's really the biggest thing that happened on the drive. We got to get off the field. It was 3rd down, and he slipped. He found him and made a play, and that was kind of the ball game.
How did you feel about the tackling in the game overall?
Certain guys I thought could do a lot better. Certain guys I thought tackled well. As a group, I don't think we tackled as well as we wanted to. Even the first play indicated that. We had 3 missed tackles on the very first play that went for 6 yards, and we stuffed them in the backfield. So our tackling's got to be a lot better.
And what did you see that Brissett did well? That this is a guy that I'm sure at the beginning of the year when you see it's not Deshaun Watson, that a lot of people would have thought that would have made things a lot easier, but he's a guy that's playing really good football at this point.
Well, he finds the open man. He doesn't force the ball in, and he's a big guy, so he's tough to bring down once you get back there. He shakes off a lot of tacklers, and he gets the ball out. He doesn't take a lot of sacks.
What did you see from Devin and Levante? What kind of rating or grade would you give their game?
I give them both a B. I thought they both had a lot of tackles. Obviously, there's some plays they could have had back. And a gap or two they misfit, but we just got to break on the ball better because there's interceptions out there to be had that we need to make.
How about Vita when he's not practicing a lot during the week, and just some of the situations when you have guys where you don't know if they're going to be able to go, and then you don't know what % they'll be if they go. How much does that change some of the ways that you try to do things, or what did you see from him when he was able to end up going, and did he seem fully healthy and fully himself?
Well, Vita played well. I think he fell down one time where he could have had a sack where he tripped coming back or inside, but He was physical, he played tough, he played hard. There was no ramifications of him being hurt, and he played a physical ball game for us.
Carl Nassib ended up getting a half a sack and I think another tackle for loss. And Joe Tryon, I know, drew a couple penalties and he didn't end up having some of the bigger numbers and stats, but seemed like he was getting some good pressure. What did you see about the guys who, I know Anthony Nelson, same thing, that are all trying to step up collectively to replace Shaq? The outside linebacker group as a whole, where do you feel like they're at in trying to replace him?
It's hard to replace Shaq. I don't think any of them there individually. Collectively, we try to get it done. I think Carl and Nelson brought a very physical aspect to the game yesterday. I think Joe brings a very athletic aspect to the game for us when we are running stunts in games. And I thought he showed up and flashed some yesterday, but Carl was very physical and Nelson was very physical.
How did you feel about the special teams units? I know there were a few bigger runs given up than typical. And I think in both the punt and kick game, what did you see from the coverage units, and less the actual punting and kicking side and more the actual coverage units?
Well, number one, we didn't punt the ball well. We shanked some down the middle and turned over. And when we did punt it far, they were line drives, so we didn't give our coverage teams a chance to get down the field. But we still got to be able to tackle and fill out lanes. I don't think we did a good job at that. I think they did a good job doubling Zion and taking him out of it, because if you take him out of it, you have a chance to run, and the other guys got down a little bit late, and we got to clean up those things.
All right, well, we have one more segment coming up here on the Todd Bowles Show. We're going to look ahead to that game against the Saints on Monday Night Football. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Looking ahead to this Saints game, how do you see it being different than the last matchup for both teams, of where you guys are at compared to there, and then some of the different people they have playing, and just where each team is at this point in the season compared to last?
I think we're both in the same boat. We both have to win a ball game. You know, it's a division game. It's a tough game. We know it's going to be a bloodbath. They need the win. We need the win. And it's going to be a tough ball game. They have different people playing. We have a few different people playing. But beside that, it's about who executes the best. Who executes the best, who keeps the level head, who keeps the penalties down. That's who wins the game.
Was there anything in particular that you felt like you took away from the first game, or lessons you learned from that matchup that finally getting the better of them after a lot of regular season matchups that hadn't gone your way, of what you need to continue on in this game that you did that first matchup?
Well, we finally won a turnover battle. You know, the last time we won a turnover battle was the championship game. So we haven't won it since, and we won it that last game, and that was the score that showed it.
And specifically their defense, we know that they can bring a lot of pressure. What are some of the things that maybe you have to be aware of, knowing that guys like Cam Jordan are coming and you're maybe without Tristan Wirfs, it sounds like? So what are some of the things that you feel like you guys are going to be trying to do to counteract that? Maybe see if you're going to bring some extra help down there. What are some of the ways that you feel like you might try to take on that defense?
Depending on the plays we call, obviously Cam's a load even when we have Tristan healthy. He's one of the best players in the league. They have a few of them. DeMario's playing well. Obviously Lattimore should be back. He'll be playing well, with Tyron still playing well. And they got a bunch of guys that can make plays. They got a bunch of leaders over there, and they got a bunch of tough guys similar to us. It's going to be a dogfight. They're not going to give it to us. We're not going to give it to them. So it's going to be a good ball game.
And so how about an Andy Dalton-led offense versus a Jameis offense, how that seems to have changed things? And besides even Andy Dalton, the other offensive weapons that you know you have to be aware of, what are the biggest things you're paying attention to?
Obviously, Olave has really stepped up. Their first-round pick has come forward, so he's become the number one guy for them. Dalton's doing a great job spreading the ball around. Kamara's always dangerous in run or pass, so they do a good job. Their offensive line has gotten healthy, so they're more physical, obviously, and they spread the ball around. They give you a lot of things to do or look at, especially with Taysom Hill. He's throwing the ball more. He's still running the ball effectively, so it's going to be a good job trying to stay disciplined in what they do.
We saw your message to the team from a team meeting from after, I guess it would be before the 2-game win streak, when you were coming off the 3-game losing streak, and you talked a lot about accountability. You talked a lot about the detail-oriented aspect of guys talking to their coaches, communicating more. What is the message now? What is what you're mainly trying to communicate to this team that you think as a coach is your role in just kind of the mental aspect of what you're trying to get them to do?
Well, it's a players' team. Every team that has winners, that wins, it's a players' team. The leaders lead and everybody else follows. So it's time for our leaders to lead and step up, and everybody else has to follow and make plays. Not just lead, but make plays and show them by example, show them by being vocal, show them by how they practice. And they've been doing that for the most part, but, you know, we can't piss away any more ball games, so to speak. So it's time for us to step up and make plays. We got 6 games left, so we got to get in the tournament.
All right. Well, thank you as always for your time, and good luck this next week on Monday Night Football.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks to all of you guys for being with us. We'll see you next week on the Todd Bowles Show.